The salvage auction on Station Kepler 9 was attended by the usual crowd of scavengers and opportunists. Elsa Morrison stood at the back, her weathered hands clutched around a datapad containing her late husband's life insurance payout. 3 years had passed since Alex died in the mining accident on Titan, and she'd finally decided to buy something, anything, to start over. The auctioneer, a multi-limbed Zarathi with translator implants that buzzed with each word, gestured toward Lot 47. Salvage vessel, human make, approximately 40 standard years old. Hull integrity questionable. Life support offline. No warranty, no refunds. The gathered aliens chittered, clicked, and hummed their disinterest. Nobody wanted human salvage. Human ships were built with redundancies upon redundancies, over-engineered to a fault and nightmarishly difficult to strip for parts. The auction price dropped rapidly. 10,000 credits, Elsa said quietly. The Zarathi's eye stalk swiveled toward her. Sold. 2 hours later, Elsa stood in the docking bay staring at her purchase. The ship was a disaster. A Frontier-class hauler with scorch marks along its port side, and a name barely visible beneath decades of cosmic dust. The Persistence. Appropriate, Elsa muttered, running her hand along the cold hull. The airlock groaned as she forced it open manually. Inside, the ship smelled of stale air and abandoned dreams. Emergency lighting flickered to life as she stepped aboard, casting long shadows down the narrow corridor. She made her way to the bridge, her boots echoing in the silence. The captain's chair was worn but functional. Elsa sat down and began running diagnostics from the backup battery. Most systems were dead or dying, but the main computer core showed signs of life. She worked methodically, the way Alex had taught her during their years together on the Frontier stations. As the night cycle approached, Elsa set up a sleeping bag in the crew quarters. The ship creaked and settled around her, and for the first time in 3 years she didn't feel entirely alone. That's when she heard it. A soft rhythmic sound echoed through the bulkhead. Tap, 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 tap. Elsa sat bolt upright, her heart hammering. She knew that pattern. Every human who'd ever served in space knew that pattern. It was Morse code, the ancient Earth communication system that every spacer learned as a backup just in case. Tap, 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 tap. The letter A in Morse code. Elsa grabbed her emergency light and followed the sound. It led her deep into the engineering section, to a sealed compartment she hadn't noticed before. The tapping came from inside, regular and insistent. With trembling hands, she unsealed the door. Inside was a stasis pod, human-made vintage military design, and it was active. Through the frosted viewport, she could see a face. Young, perhaps early 20s, peaceful in suspended animation. But what froze her blood was the robotic arm extending from the pod's maintenance system, tapping against the hull with mechanical precision. LEX, tap, 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 her husband's name. Elsa's hands shook as she accessed the pod's interface. The logs were corrupted, but fragments remained. The occupant had been in stasis for 38 years. The pod's AI had been trying to signal for help, cycling through every distress protocol in its database. When all else failed, it had defaulted to the most primitive human communication method, one that would persist as long as the power held. And somehow, impossibly, it had chosen to tap out the name etched into a small metal tag attached to the pod's exterior service panel. Maintenance Technician, Alex Morrison. Her Alex. 3 decades before she'd even met him, he'd serviced this pod on some forgotten station or ship. His name tag had remained, a tiny piece of him left behind. Elsa worked through the night, rerouting power, bypassing damaged systems, coaxing life back into the old ship. The Zarathi had been right about one thing. Human ships were over-engineered. But that meant they could survive. They could persist. By morning, she had enough power to attempt a revival sequence. As the pod hissed open and the young man inside drew his first gasping breath in 38 years, Elsa explained where, and when, he was. His name was Marcus Chen, a colony volunteer who'd been en route to a settlement that had long since failed. Everyone he'd known was gone. His world was gone. "What do I do now?" Marcus asked, his voice hollow. Elsa looked around the battered bridge of the Persistence, at the systems she'd brought back to life through sheer stubborn determination. She thought of Alex, of how he'd always said humans were too damn stubborn to quit, too creative to fail, too connected to ever truly be alone. We keep going, she said. That's what humans do. Over the following weeks, as Elsa and Marcus worked together to restore the ship, word spread through Station Kepler 9. The human widow who'd bought worthless salvage had found a survivor, had brought a ghost ship back to life, had refused to give up. The Zarathi auctioneer approached her one day in the station's market. I am curious, it said, its translator crackling. My species would have scrapped that vessel for materials. The Kralathi would have left it to drift. The Vex would have never looked inside. How did you know to search? Elsa smiled, thinking of the tapping, of Alex's name, of the chain of coincidences that weren't really coincidences at all. Because humans leave marks, she said. We scratch our names on things, we build things that last, and we never stop looking for each other. That ship was tapping out a message for 38 years. It knew somehow that eventually a human would hear it, and humans never forget the sound of someone calling for help. The Zarathi's eye stalks quivered in what might have been respect or confusion. Your species is strange, it said finally. Yes, Elsa agreed, watching Marcus load supplies onto the Persistence. But we're still here, and that was enough.